find out what happens when a Cocker Spaniel named Lady meets a mutt named Tramp, read along with me in your book. You will know it's time to turn the page when you hear this sound. Let's begin now. One frosty Christmas morning, Jim Deer had a special present for his wife, Darling. It was a Cocker Spaniel puppy.
Oh, I love her. What a perfectly beautiful little lady.
And that's how Lady got her name. When Lady was 6 months old, Darling gave her a blue collar and a license. Lady went outside to show her friends Jock, a Scottish Terrier, and Trusty, a hound dog.
Why, Miss Lady, you have a collar.
And a license.
There she is, a full-grown lady, wearing the greatest honor man can bestow. The badge of faith and respectability.
Lady smiled proudly as Jock and Trusty talked about how much Jim Deer and Darling loved her. Soon after, though, Lady started to notice that Jim Deer and Darling were acting strangely. Jock told her that Lady's owners were expecting a baby.
Oh. What's a baby?
Just then, a new dog, Tramp, trotted by. Tramp didn't have a collar, a license, or a home, but he had lots of opinions about babies.
Just a cute little bundle of trouble. When a baby moves in, the dog moves out.
Even though Jock and Trusty shooed Tramp away, Lady was worried. What if Tramp was right? When the baby came, Lady realized that there was plenty of room in Jim Deer's and Darling's hearts for their new baby and their dog. After some time had passed, Aunt Sarah arrived to take care of the baby while Jim Deer and Darling went on a trip. Aunt Sarah didn't like dogs, and neither did her 2 Siamese cats. The cats caused lots of trouble, but Aunt Sarah blamed Lady. Aunt Sarah marched Lady down to the pet store and bought a strong muzzle. The muzzle wrapped around Lady's nose and mouth so tightly that she couldn't even bark. As soon as she had the chance, Lady raced out of the pet store. On her way out, she accidentally spilled dog food and knocked over bird cages. The streets were full of speeding cars and galloping horses. It wasn't safe for a dog to be out by herself. Suddenly, a pack of fierce dogs chased Lady down an alley. She was trapped. Luckily, Tramp arrived and scared them away. When Tramp saw Lady's horrible muzzle, he knew just what to do.
Poor kid. Oh, we've got to get this off. And I think I know the very place. Come on.
Lady followed Tramp to the zoo, where they visited lots of animals before they found one that could help.
A beaver! Here's the answer to our problem.
With one strong chomp, the beaver bit through the muzzle. Lady was so glad to have it off. The 2 dogs headed back into town. Tramp sniffed the air curiously.
Something tells me it's supper time.
Lady and Tramp went to one of Tramp's favorite restaurants.
Tony's, the very place for a very special occasion.
In the alley behind the restaurant, Tony and the chef served up a big plate of spaghetti and meatballs. The dogs smiled at each other. It was turning out to be a lovely evening. The next morning, Tramp had a question for Lady.
Ever chase chickens?
I should say not.
Then you've never lived.
But we won't hurt the chickens.
No, we'll just stir them up a bit.
Tramp barked loudly as he raced around the hen house. The chickens scattered, clucking and squawking as their feathers flew everywhere. All of a sudden, a dog catcher showed up and chased after Lady and Tramp. He grabbed Lady and took her to the pound. The dog pound was a lonely place. Dogs who didn't have homes waited and waited, hoping that someone would adopt them. All the dogs there knew that Lady's collar and license meant she would be going home soon. After the dog catcher called Aunt Sarah, she came to pick up Lady. When they got home, Aunt Sarah chained Lady to the doghouse. Soon, Tramp arrived with a bone for her, but Lady just glared at him. Tramp tried to explain.
I thought you were right behind me, honest. And when I heard they'd taken you to the pound...
Oh, don't even mention that horrible place. I was so embarrassed and frightened.
But...
Goodbye, and take this with you.
Lady kicked the bone back to Tramp and then turned away. After Tramp left, Lady spotted something terrible. A rat was crawling into the window of the baby's room. Lady barked and barked, but Aunt Sarah just yelled at her to be quiet. When Tramp heard Lady barking, he rushed back to her doghouse.
What's wrong?
A rat.
Where?
Upstairs, in the baby's room.
Tramp raced upstairs. He lunged for the rat and accidentally knocked over the baby's cradle. Tramp chased the rat downstairs and made sure that it would never come near the baby again. Lady was so relieved that she forgave Tramp at once. But Aunt Sarah didn't know there had been a rat in the house. Instead of thanking Tramp, she chased him into a closet and locked Lady in the basement. Then she called the dog catcher and told him to take Tramp away. At that moment, Jim Deer and Darling arrived home. They opened the door to the basement and let Lady out. Lady showed them the rat, and they ran outside to look for Tramp. But the dog catcher had already left, with Tramp locked inside the wagon. Trusty and Jock knew they had to do something to help.
We've got to stop that wagon.
The two dogs raced through the rain-slicked streets. It was impossible to follow the wagon tracks through all the puddles. Suddenly, Trusty had an idea.
The scent. All of the scent. Oh, but we both know you've lost your sense of smell.
Trusty refused to give up. He used his keen sense of smell to track down the wagon. Then, he ran right in front of it to try and stop it. The wagon toppled over, and Tramp was able to escape. But poor Trusty got stuck under the wagon's wheels. He was badly hurt. Jock and Lady sadly looked at their friend. A few months passed, and it was Christmas Eve. So much had happened since the night when the dog catcher had come to take Tramp to the pound. Now Tramp lived at Lady's house. Darling glanced out the window.
Visitors? Oh, why, it's Jock.
Jock wasn't alone. Trusty, whose leg was still healing from the wagon accident, limped behind him.
Careful now. It's a wee bit slippery.
Once inside, Trusty and Jock met Lady and Tramp's 4 adorable puppies.
No doubt about it. They've got their mother's eyes. But there's a bit of their father in them, too.
With the puppies by their side, Lady and Tramp smiled. Their friends and family were the best Christmas presents of all.